Good morning. Today we are going to continue the previous lecture. The previous lecture was on natural law, and in that lecture we have seen the concept of natural law, and we have differentiated natural law with other law, that is a positive law. And today we are going to see the historical evolution of natural law. We have divided the evolution into four parts, that is ancient theory, modern theory, medieval theory and Renaissance theory. The sequence is like, the first is the ancient theory, then the medieval theory, then the Renaissance theory, and the last is what? The modern theory. Okay. Now in ancient times, what the thinkers used to feel, or what they have stated relating to natural law. Okay. First we will see the Greek thinkers. They developed the idea of natural law and they have laid down its essential features. Okay. Heraclitus, what he stated, what is natural law? It is reasoning power. Okay. And reason is one of the essential of being. Means if you have to live according to nature, you must have the reasoning power. It is essential of being. If you are not having reasoning power, means you are not in a position to think about right and wrong. Therefore it is very essential that you should have the reasoning power and you have to use it. And therefore what is natural law? It is a reason. Okay. Now what Socrates has mentioned, that man possesses insight, and this insight reveals to him the goodness and badness of things and makes him know the absolute and eternal moral laws. Means what Socrates is telling, that we possess insight, and this insight reveals to us, tells to us what to do and what not to do. It tells us what is good and what is bad, because of which we come to know the eternal concept of morality, the eternal concept, the universal concept of natural law. Okay, that is the view of Socrates. Now Plato, what Plato has stated, God gave to all men in equal measure a sense of justice, so that in the struggle of life they may be able to form permanent unions for mutual preservation. We are the best creation of God, or you can say we are the best creation of the superpower. And therefore he says that, Plato says that God has gave us to all men the sense of justice. The sense of justice means we think, reasoning is being used, and we decide what is right and what is wrong. And that is very much essential as per Plato, or according to Plato. He says that God cannot be there with us everywhere. Therefore he has given reasoning power to us, so that you yourself decide with the help of the reasoning power what is right and what is wrong, which will be essential for our preservation. God gave to all men in equal measure a sense of justice, so that in the struggle of life they may be able to form permanent unions for mutual preservation. Okay, means here also the connection is with reasoning power. Okay. Now Aristotle, what Aristotle is stating, man is a part of nature in two ways. First, he is a part of the creatures of God, means God has created human beings. And second, he possesses active reasoning which he can shape his will. By his reason, man can discover the eternal principles of justice. Means we are connected to the natural law in two ways. We are connected to as a part of nature in two ways. One is we are the creation of the nature. The nature has created us, and the nature has given its reasoning power to us, so that we can decide right and wrong. Okay. Now all these three persons have clearly connected natural law with reasoning power. Okay. The Heraclitus, Plato, Aristotle and Socrates, they relate natural law with reasoning power. Okay. Now we are going to see some jurists in Rome, that is Stoic and Cicero. What they say, entire universe is governed by reasoning. Man's reason is a part of the universal reason. Therefore, when we live according to reason, we live according to nature. He lives according to nature or lives naturally. And you should not go against nature. You have to live according to nature. If you live according to nature, means according to the reasoning power, you will not suffer. That is the thinking of the jurist in Rome. The Romans had made division of law. They had made three divisions. One is jus civile, that is laws for citizen. Second is jus gentium, that is laws for the foreigners. And the third was jus naturale, that is law of nature. Okay, we have seen Greek thinkers, we have seen Rome thinkers. Now what was the position of natural law in India? In ancient legal system in India, law owed its existence because of God. It is mentioned like that in Shrutis and Smritis. King is simply to execute the natural law and he himself is bound by it. Therefore, king was responsible when he will not follow the dharma. Okay. Therefore, Puranas are full of instances where the king was dethroned and beheaded because they went against the established law. Therefore, the concept of king can do no wrong was not prevalent in India. In India, in ancient time itself, the king was responsible. He was below the god. Okay. Now, this we discuss it as ancient theories. Now, the second part, that is a medieval theory. In medieval time, what happened? The Catholic philosophers and theologians, what they did, they gave the new concept of natural law, but they mentioned that it is divine and all. But what the objective of medieval thinkers was, they wanted the church to be superior. Church to be superior than the state. Okay. Therefore, the authority was to be given to church. Therefore, they interpreted natural law in that particular way. Church is the authoritative interpreter of the law in the scriptures. They pleaded for establishing the authority of the church over law, and therefore church became the authority, which gave rise for the struggle between the Pope, that is the church, and the emperor for supremacy. Therefore, you can say that little bit natural law was misinterpreted in favor of them to fulfill their objective. Okay, this is the medieval period. Then comes the Renaissance period, means because of discoveries and all, because of inventions, because of development of science, what happened? People came forward stating that no, such a kind of divine thing is not there. We have to connect it with science. Okay, therefore Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Rousseau, these people came forward denying the divine theory. What the divine theory stated, king is a messenger of God. You have to follow the king because he is a messenger of God. God means the church itself, because the church is the authoritative interpreter. But these people, Thomas Hobbes, John Locke and Rousseau, they came forward telling that no, state came into existence not because of God. State is coming into existence because of a contract. A contract has been made between people in between themselves, and they have created the state. Thomas Hobbes' view is different, John Locke's view is different, Rousseau's view is different, but they are having the common base that man was living in a state of nature, and because of that, to come out of the state of nature, man made a contract and created the state. It is all man made. Therefore, in the Renaissance period, what happened? The powers came to the state and they denied the authority of the church. Okay. Now this is the Renaissance period. Now the fourth theory, the last is what? The modern theory. But in modern theory, what happens? We divide it as in 19th century and after 20th century. In the 19th century, what happened? We see that there is a decline of natural law. Why there was a decline of natural law? Because excessive individualism was there. Therefore, natural law could not survive because of the anarchical positivism. Bentham came and Bentham stated that utility, man is governed only by two masters, two sovereign masters. One is pain and the other is pleasure. Man wants pleasure and he wants to avoid pain. Based upon this, man will decide what to do and what not to do. Okay. Therefore, excessive privatization, excessive individualism came into existence, and therefore natural law declined in the 19th century. However, we see in the 20th century that revival of natural law took place. Man came forward and thought that no, we have to follow the concepts of natural law, and therefore in England, in India, in America, they created certain principles in law which are based upon natural law, like quasi-contract or judicial review, fundamental rights, then rights of citizens, many rights which are given to the citizens, reasonableness concept, recognition of the judgments, the concept of justice, equity and good conscience. These all concepts in law are based upon the natural law only. Okay. Therefore, after 20th century, we have seen that there are lots of principles in law which are based on natural law. Okay. Now, we will evaluate the concept of natural law. Natural law is binding on us. It is universal. Natural law is providing us with ideals. Okay. Natural laws are binding on us because they are the principles of validity. They are the stuff out of which positive laws are derived. Natural law are common to all countries. Okay. Ideals are provided by natural law. Positive laws are short of ideals, but natural law provides them the base. Therefore, morality should be the base of law. Then only the law will be followed. Okay. Man should be in accordance with nature. Man, if goes against the nature, he cannot survive for a long time. Okay. These are the merits of natural law theory or natural law. But natural law has been criticized also, because according to nature, man is going to beget the children. Like we see that trees are going to give fruits, but the factual position may differ. How the factual position will differ? Because the country may be populous, the country may be facing some problem of population explosion. Therefore, we can't allow it. Therefore, we are having some policies of family planning and all. Okay. The moral propositions that is ought to be made may not always necessarily conform to the needs of society. For example, it is natural for men to beget children as it for trees to bear fruit. But the factual position may be different, since many countries including India may like to restrict the growth of population by resorting to family planning devices, while on the other hand no one would ever live to restrict the growth of fruits on trees. Therefore, giving birth to children may be a natural phenomenon, but it may not always be considered as obligatory moral duty of men to conform to those conduct, because the factual things are going to differ. Okay. Now, on one side we say that moral principles or natural law is universal, but actually it is not there. It is going to change. The concept of morality is varying content, changing from place to place and time to time. Therefore, it is not true that natural law is having universal application. We can take an example, like in some society they think about monogamy as an ideal type of marriage. They want monogamy in society, while in some societies they allow for polyandry or polygamy, that is plurality of marriages. Therefore, we can see that there is a difference of universal principles also. Okay. Next is, the rules of morality embodied in the natural law are not amenable to changes, but the legal rules do need a change with the changing needs of society. Therefore, we can't follow all the things all the time continuously. We have to change according to the change in the society. Legal disputes may be settled by law courts, but the disputes relating to morality and the law of nature cannot be subjected to judicial scrutiny. And though they are subjected, it will depend upon the discretion of the judge and that discretion may not be proper because it is subjective to that concerned judge. Therefore, the concept of morality is not subjected to the court. Okay. Though apparently law and morality may appear to be in conflict with each other, the fact remains that in order to decide whether a particular law is just or unjust, it has to be tested on the basis of principles of morality. Therefore, positive laws have to conform with morality. Therefore, moral laws are to be followed strictly. And there is no common or universal principle that is the truth, because at one time people used to believe that slavery is proper. Aristotle also was in favor of slavery, but now we have considered that it is against the human right. Therefore, it changes. The concept of natural law is also changeable, because now we come to know that it is not proper. It is a principle of nature that man is born free. This principle not universally accepted, because previously slavery was justifiable, but now we have got the knowledge that slavery is improper and therefore it is to be abolished. Okay, this is the evaluation of natural law, and we have also seen the evolution of natural law. Okay, bye bye. See you in the next video.